Good Tuesday morning. Welcome back. The Pledge of Allegiance axed on one college campus after student government leaders voted to ban it from meetings.
I have no allegiance to pledge to the federal government as someone who feels entirely unsupported by its figurehead. This lack of respect and empathy for the greater student body hurts my heart.
Supporters of the ban say the pledge is not inclusive to all students, but is this what students in our schools should be learning at American universities? Joining us now to weigh in on that, Editor-in-Chief at Campus Reform, Cabot Phillips. Cabot, what do you make of this?
Well, it's disappointing to see students come out and say that the Pledge of Allegiance represents an oppressive government in their words. Student after student got up there at this meeting and said, we should not have to say the pledge because we're pledging allegiance to an oppressive country and an oppressive government. And the fact that they have the privilege to go out and say just how oppressive our government is shows how wonderful our country is in the first place, that you can criticize our government without having to have any fear of retribution. And students said, well, if you don't see how oppressive the American government is and how oppressive having to say the pledge is, then you're blinded by your own privilege. And ironically, they don't see their own privilege in that statement. They don't see their American privilege, the fact that globally it's not a common thing to be able to criticize your own government. And that's a beautiful thing we have here in America. And no one is saying that you should be forced to say the pledge. Mandatory patriotism is not something that's patriotic at all, but you should be able to take at least a few seconds out of the day to look back and to realize just how special our country is and the inclusivity of our country's rights that guarantee freedom to all people, and that's a beautiful thing that should not be removed.
You know, there are, though, as you know, because you go around to different campuses and talk to students, there are a lot of patriots on our college campuses. That includes Dorian Thompson, who is a college Republican defending the pledge. Listen to this.
If we remove this, that means we are taking away the right that we've been saying, oh, everyone has these rights not to say. We take the right away from the people who want to say it. That is what my great-grandfather fought for in World War II.
We need more of that.
Absolutely, and it was encouraging to see at least some students that were there speaking up. And sadly, as I've seen with Leadership Institute's Campus Reform, that is an increasingly tough stance to take. When you come out and you're patriotic, and I've seen this in interviewing thousands of students, it's now highbrow to be anti-American. And when people are patriotic and they say that we're a great country and we're something that is to be proud of and something that's special, you're looked down on. And people kind of say, well, you must not know all of the things we've done. You must not know the history. And on the contrary, if you really knew the history, you would see how America is a beacon of freedom in the world. And I do think that so much of this does stem from that anti-American sentiment on campus, and it starts to bleed out. And the other aspect of this, too, I think you have to look at is President Obama. So many of these young people came of age under his presidency, and regardless of your opinions on him, I think when you see him going around the world saying, well, American exceptionalism is not really a thing. Every country thinks they're exceptional, and apologizing to other countries on our behalf, I do think that kind of sets the groundwork for people saying, well, maybe we don't need that deep, intense patriotism we've had in the past, and I think that can lead to this as well.
Yeah, nobody ever said the United States was perfect, and interestingly enough, its biggest critics don't ever seem to leave either. Here's Grand Valley State University on the students banning the pledge. This is their statement here. Student senators are working together to devise a compromise that will show respect for differences on the Senate, but one that is acceptable to those who value reciting the pledge and what it represents. Does that sound fair to you?
I think giving students the opportunity is the key here. Removing it altogether is the wrong move. If students truly do feel like they shouldn't have it, just don't say it. Don't stand up. But removing everyone's right to have the opportunity to say it, I think, is the problem. And I think this also stems from a broader conversation that's to be had about how students are always looking for things to say that are oppressing them. I think when oppression is viewed as a currency, like on college campuses, students start looking around saying, well, I'll get special treatment if I can say all these things oppress me. What easier target than to say that the United States itself is oppressing me? There are students right now halfway around the world in Hong Kong fighting real oppression that are singing the national anthem of America because they know that we represent true freedom. They'd be very confused by the fact that American students here that have the freedom to speak out against their government are trying to take that freedom away from other students.
It's a very luxurious position that a lot of these students take. All right, thank you so much. We appreciate it, Cabot.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
We'll be right back.